Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo, Jesse, AJ coming at you to talk in a little bit Evander Kane. We did also want to talk a little bit more about the overtime call the other night. I wish we could hear Jesse. I really do. His mic is struggling. Don't know. He'll have to fix it. But while we wait for him to get it sorted out, I will tell you that I'm not satisfied by any of the explanations that I've seen so far. I think it's still an objectively incorrect call. There you go.
Hey. Yeah, no, I said I had so much fun talking about it last night. I thought, why not keep it going?
Stay mad, team. That's the plan.
Let the good times roll.
So we have one explanation here from, I believe it's Dave Jackson on Twitter.
He's the rules expert for ESPN.
Yes. So he says, I agree with what you said. As I said in my 3-tweet explanation, I'm only guessing, but when Rantanen comes on the ice, he does it too soon. Not supposed to jump until teammate is 5 feet away. At that point, Kadri and Tays on the ice.
Yeah, so this is the abridged version since we weren't going to go through all 3 tweets. And basically,
honestly, I thought this described it better than the 3 tweets did. The 3 tweets were kind of confusing.
if you go and watch what he's talking about, you see that Rantanen starts to hop on the ice when McKinnon is really not very close. And then obviously the puck is not part of that. Yep. Which is where Colorado's like, so what? Like, nobody has a problem with the Preds having 1,000 guys on the ice because they didn't have the puck and they were not part of the play. But as the puck works its way up the boards, Rantanen's decision to get on as early as he did ended up just giving him the advantage because of how things played out. Because he got on the ice as quickly as he did, by the time that the puck had come up the boards, his decision to get on early gave them the advantage, and that was what he was guessing was the basis for the call. So it's still horseshit.
If we
the freeze frame that's being shown around right now is McKinnon on the far side, I mean by just a foot or two of the red line, and Mikko has both of his feet planted on the ice. And yeah, what he's saying is that had Mikko been sitting on the wall and when Nate gets to the bench, had he then jumped on the ice, the play could have shaken out differently. My issue is we see that happen 3 times a game.
That happened.
And you see guys, I mean, the Predators did it immediately. They're having to avoid touching the puck until till the guy they're replacing is off the ice. It's a really strange interpretation. The other thing that's tough with all of this is the freeze frame of McKinnon being far away from the bench. Yes, he is more than 5 feet, obviously.
Yeah.
But if you were to see that played in real time, I mean, you're talking about a second and a half.
And the puck is nowhere near. At the
nowhere
time
near.
Going on, the puck is not part of this process at all. It became part of the process later on, and that was just...
And Mikko doesn't make a play on the puck until McKinnon is off the ice, which that's what you see happen all the time. You know, we yell it don't touch it until your guy is off the ice. Yeah. And then you can play the puck.
They did everything
constantly. Yeah.
Right.
They did everything from that perspective correctly, and it's insane.
The part that gets me is literally a minute earlier in overtime. We watched Sam Girard just skate past 2 Preds and should have created what was a 2-on-1. But the Preds used the exact same trick where the guy behind Sam is coming to the bench and the other guy jumps off on the opposite side of the bench. And suddenly it negates Sam's rush.
Well, and my other thing too, again, and obviously he's just guessing. We haven't actually heard from, his name is slipping my mind. The official that made the call,
Dean Morton.
Dean Morton, thank you. My other issue with that explanation, if that's what you're going to go with, again, okay, I wholeheartedly disagree, but I can at least see how you arrived there. Why wasn't that play blown dead the second Mikko touched the puck?
Yeah.
Why was he allowed to skate with it for 10 to 15 feet before that official decided to throw his arm up, when, again, at the time of him putting his arm up, there were 2 Avs skaters on the ice.
There were 5 Preds on the ice when he put his arm up.
Right.
If you're going to make that call, but
so I can understand that rationale better than anything we were given last night. It still doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Something to chew on,
right?
Versus
now,
like, did he think he can't count and he thought the ref did it, or he thought the ref was an Av,
right? And the other thing that you do just have to say is that Dean Morton has 800 plus regular season NHL games played and single digit playoff games officiated.
Yeah.
There's something that the league sees there that they don't care for in his officiating, that he gets a couple of round 1 games maybe per season, and that's about it. That
it's good enough to officiate the regular season only.
Not great.
Right.
Not
I mean,
great.
over 800 regular season games as an official and single digit playoff games. That is one of those things where it would take a couple of years, but like, honestly, that is something that, this game aside, like, the NHL needs to look at its officials like that and say, why don't you trust them to officiate in the playoffs, but they're totally fine to take however many regular season games that they want? That to me is a bit of a process issue on the NHL side that you'd love to see them get worked out in the future. But is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's never going to feel good when a game gets decided by a ref, right? And regardless of how correct or incorrect the call is, it's just never going to feel good. And I still think it's objectively a wrong call, but we've talked plenty about that. So
yeah.
Braxton in the chat just wanted us to talk about the Burakovsky goal.
Yep.
And just how we felt about that, because he doesn't think it should have counted. I think that we all agree that that was the right application of the rule. That had Borowiecki been hit in the face, it's an instant whistle and you blow it dead, because you worry about that. Like, you have.
He didn't require immediate medical attention,
right? And we saw with Matt Calvert in Vancouver a few years ago. Calvert got hit in the face and he's literally bleeding on the ice. Elias Pettersson is standing 3 feet away from him, like, this guy's bleeding.
Right.
Like, are we going to stop play here? And then they score. And after that incident, after there was so much blowback from everybody about that incident, the league started a lot more aggressively whistling down plays where players had been hit in the face. But he wasn't hit in the face. And that's where you just kind of have, you just the way that it is that you just have to let that go, because you don't trust players to be honest about that. He did not come back. He was very clearly in serious pain, and that's one of your classic tough guys in the league, so you know he was hurt,
right?
And you feel terrible for him. And I genuinely felt bad for the Preds, because it sucks to give up a goal in that manner. But take the puck back, like in the same way that hey, in overtime last night, the Avs could have still killed that penalty.
Yep.
They still had enough. The refs didn't score the goal. The Avs still had 2 minutes that they could have killed to try and get to the shootout. But because you could see the way that would be abused all the time if you blew that play dead, because all a guy has to do is block a shot and just knock it up.
So here's my thing there. And while I do think ultimately, as the rule is currently, that how it played out was correct, I wouldn't hate seeing a rule get changed to protect the players a little bit more there. And yes, I understand there are going to be issues with soccer level faking of things going on there. But if there is that, I think there are certain ways around that, including the thing that everyone likes to say about hockey, where the players police themselves. If someone fakes one of those and then gets up and is okay, the other team's going to beat the shit out of them. where I'm at with it. I think I wouldn't hate seeing the rule get changed to where you can protect those players a little bit better and finding other ways to prevent people faking that shit.
I just don't think at that point then you're making judgment calls on a player faking pain, and like how like he could be hurt in that moment, right?
Sure.
And then he gets up and then whatever. I think where you would do it is you would say, if a guy, if you know, a guy he can't participate. If a guy has to leave the ice because they stop play, he has to leave for X amount of time.
Yeah, I agree. And
like in the NFL, if a player is down and it requires the staff to come running onto the field, he has to come off the field for at least one play. He can't just get up and he's golden, baby.
I entirely agree with that. There also needs to be like, if the player is down, he needs to be completely medically checked out, right, before he can come back to the game. If he's down and it was just a stinger and he gets right back up and you stop play, that's not okay. You can't let that happen.
Yeah. That's kind of where I am though, because the guy may not be faking it so much, but like puck goes right off of his kneecap, right? And he's like, he's got dead leg, he can't skate, he can't move it, and he's just like, oh man, I can't get off the ice. You blow that dead, and it's like, okay, this guy he does not need the immediate medical attention. And I just think that I felt like last night was a proper application of the rules, and for good reason. You just feel terrible for Boro because it doesn't like nobody felt good about that. Like you're like the Avs score and you're like, okay, cool. It is what it is. Nice shot.
A great point by Ryan here. Let's start with actually suspending people who are blasting people in the head.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's definitely a tough situation, right? Anytime you are giving referees leeway in a call to make a judgment call, it's going to cause problems in any sport. That's just reality. Anything that isn't extremely black and white by the rules causes problems. So just look at goalie interference. Anyway, we can move on here and be brought to you all by Breckenridge Brewery. Head on down to the DNVR bar to get 8 different kinds on tap. Highly recommend that you check us out there. You can also get it at your local liquor store. Use the Breck Beer Locator online to find it near you. And you can also find their Good Company hard seltzers. If you're more of a seltzer drinker, highly recommend you check them out. They have a flavor for everyone, pretty much no matter what. And then you can also check out Lightshade. If you're not into alcohol, maybe THC is more your thing, go jump on that one and get what you need. Highly recommend you check them out with the DNVR25 code to get 25% off products. You can go online, order for pickup at one of 11 locations with Lightshade around the Denver metro area. So you can jump on that. If you're looking for some specific products, they also have Wanema Optimals Fast Sleep, which is 20 to 100 THC CBD. So help you fall asleep if you're up late, which you often are when the Avs make the West Coast swing, things like that. If you're trying to
next week.
Yeah, maybe need some help falling asleep after the way the Avs are trying to pull off comebacks, especially lately. Could definitely help. Wana is a holistic plant-based solution that tackles the root causes of sleeplessness like stress and pain. So be sure to check out Wana. You can find it at Lightshade, any location in the Denver metro and Aurora areas. Remember to use that DNVR code to get 25% off at lightshade.com. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. All right, so it's not official yet, I believe, but Evander Kane is pretty much expected to sign in Edmonton any day now for a new contract after being entirely let go by the San Jose Sharks.
Real quick, sorry, just because my I love that. That's hilarious. Just because my sound stopped working. The last thing I was going to say, and I don't know if you guys made this point about the Burakovsky thing. I rewatched it, and it was about 5 seconds between the puck hit him and when the puck actually went in the net. You see guys get stingers all the time who go down, and then it takes them a few moments to get back up. So that was another reason why I didn't have an issue with them letting that go on. But I'm sorry, just wanted to get that point in, and my computer died. So, well, not my computer didn't die, my technology died. But yeah, sorry, pull that great Photoshop back up. That makes me laugh every time.
Big head mode of Evander Kane.
Yeah.
It's the only mode he has.
Yeah, dude.
True.
That's so good.
Anyway, did he join the team in Vancouver? Is that what happened? I don't know.
He interviewed with the Oilers yesterday. So he went and talked to their Ken Holland and stuff.
Yeah, and his signing has now been delayed because the league is doing an investigation into how he was able to cross the border within 2 weeks of him having COVID.
Yeah.
So we have one more Evander Kane investigation until the league gives this guy his sixth chance
to sign a league minimum deal with Edmonton.
Well, so this investigation is a little interesting because from what it sounds like is that there's something that's putting some type of doubt into the San Jose side of the story. Not defending it necessarily, but I did find it interesting that there's now an investigation being launched after the league signed off on the contract termination and all that stuff. Now there's something coming back saying, hold on. What went down here? I thought it was really odd this morning.
Like they're going to have a grievance from Kane's side of things because the PA isn't just going to let a guy, let an organization dissolve $22 million worth of a contract
right.
and just be like, okay, well, that sucks, you know? The Players Association does not want that precedent set.
Right.
And if you look back to the Mike Richards situation in LA a few years ago, where as soon as Mike Richards stopped being valuable, the Kings dug up some shit on him and terminated his contract.
Right.
And Richards filed a grievance, and if I'm remembering correctly, he's still counting against their salary cap.
I do think this situation is a little bit different.
It is, but it
falls in the same lines.
It's what I'm saying in terms of, he's still counting. $900K. Wow, there's a lot of cap.
The thing with Kane is the stuff that was dug up on Richards was, technically like a felony level offense.
Yeah,
right?
like he took like OxyContin across the border, or something like unprescribed OxyContin, I think is what it was. So like different situations there. But what I'm saying is that they didn't just let the team do that.
Sure.
Right.
There was a grievance filed, and there was enough from the player side that the team had to eat something. And I think that's where we're seeing Evander, the NHLPA again, filing a grievance on behalf of Kane. And that story hasn't finished yet. It hasn't come close to finishing yet.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and we'll see how it plays out. Like, given how many times Evander Kane has been given second opportunities for these things, I do wonder how that ends up playing out, particularly with the violation of the vaccination card that the NHL required. And just
so he was suspended for 20 games because of the fake
21
vaccination card. Is there not going to be a suspension if they do this investigation and they find that?
That's a great point.
He does something that he shouldn't have done in order to get into Canada.
Just another 40 games and he's just
do they just give him another 20 games and be like, you fucking moron?
Maybe
this is a failed IQ test. Congratulations on your 30 game suspension or whatever.
Right.
So I just think that I don't know. I'm curious like where this goes. And I think Ken Holland coming out and saying, I believe in second chances is the biggest load of horse shit from a dude who is just,
Does he believe in sixth chances?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know Ken Holland. I don't know him personally. I've never met him, but this is a load of bull. You believe in second chances? Give me a fucking break. Evander Kane, like I've always found the Evander Kane stuff complicated until this last year, where
He's made it a lot easier. Yeah.
He just continues to do stupid things. But wasn't the second chance when he got traded to Buffalo because the entire Jets locker room hated his guts, and it came after relatively innocuous things like money phone during a lockout, and then like his teammates hated him.
Yep.
Like they throw his clothes in the shower. Dustin Byfuglien is actively like, no. You're not. No, you have to learn.
That picture of Byfuglien flipping him off is a lot funnier now.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, so he goes to Buffalo. There's a second chance, right? All right. Well, things don't work out in Buffalo. It's not really a third chance when he goes to San Jose because it was like, this guy's on an expiring contract. We want to get value for a player. We're a rebuilding team. We're not going anywhere. That wasn't like a burning a bridge thing.
Buffalo is also like Buffalo.
Yeah, like that was more of like a, hey, here's this. But he goes to a veteran team, okay? He goes to a veteran team. He gets insulated by their culture for a few years. He toes the line. Everything is fine. As soon as some of the adults in the room start to leave, and he becomes one of the prominent guys in the locker room and on the team. As soon as it happens, all of the old Evander Kane bullshit starts up again. We find out that, he has to file for bankruptcy because he's got gambling debts that he can't pay. And then he's apparently in the world's most toxic relationship because there's endless string of things that I can't even make heads or tails of what's real and what's not between him and his ex-wife or estranged wife. I don't know if they're still married. And then you have a different woman filing a lawsuit saying he made me get an abortion and didn't pay me for it and blah, 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 blah. Like, then you get the fake vaccination card. Then you get this. He gets COVID and then rolls into Canada anyway when he's not supposed. He just doesn't ever learn that the rules apply to him. And why does he not learn that lesson? Because the second he becomes a free agent, 15 NHL teams line up to sign him and give him a brand new deal. Oh, hey, we don't have to pay him $7 million. We'll pay him $800,000, and we'll put him in the middle of a championship contender and let him try and go and compete for a Stanley fucking Cup. Are you kidding? No wonder he didn't learn anything, because every GM in the NHL just reinforced every single bit of bad behavior and justified all of it with dipshit Ken Holland rolling out there and saying, I believe in second chances. Are you serious with this?
Yep. It's not great.
I don't know. So this to me is a unique kind of case study to watch, because we've seen stuff happen. My brain goes immediately to the NFL and like
Antonio Brown,
and even Denver Broncos, Melvin Gordon. When he first got here, the NFL said, hey, you're going to be suspended because you got a DUI. When is most convenient for you to serve that suspension? So to me, there are stuff where it's like, yeah, these people are doing, outwardly obvious illegal things. And there's other leagues that enable and do all that kind of stuff. And I fully agree. I look at Antonio Brown, and that's who I somewhat compared to Evander Kane, where when you step back and you look at this pattern of behavior, there's an issue with Evander Kane that's not being addressed. It's not that he's not learning a lesson. It's that, I mean, I'm not a psychologist or a doctor by any means, but that type of behavior, and especially AJ, to your point, where he went through a stretch in San Jose where it seemed like it was good. Like, he was functioning normally. And then something happened where, I mean, like, this is erratic behavior. This is, you were suspended, then you were suspended by the team, then you were brought back and sent to the AHL. You and your agent put out this big statement about he's going to go down there and be a professional and da-da-da-da-da. And again, obviously we have to wait to see what actually happened with this him crossing over into Canada thing. But like, he's not doing anything that, like, he's not harming anybody else that we can tell. To your point, all of this stuff with his wife, ex-wife, whatever, it's all really odd. Every time something comes out on her side, someone says something, oh no, she did this. And you have no idea what's really going on. You see the video where it's a gun. Then another statement comes out and says they were going to a Halloween party and that was his costume. It's just all this really weird stuff. And to me, it's not about that. I don't think the NHL needs to blacklist him. The dude needs to get some help. And for me, with all of this stuff that has happened now, while he's been with the Barracuda and the fake vaccination card and stuff, for me, it's not even that, teams are giving him chances, but like, for me, it's why as an organization would you want to deal with that right now? If that dude went and checked himself in somewhere, got some help, I don't know.
What do you mean? The same reason that you would cover up a player being sexually assaulted by a coach. Because you're trying to win a Stanley Cup, and that's all these people fucking care about.
Obviously, dude. Obviously.
Like,
but like, what I'm saying is,
man, if they go on and win the Stanley Cup, then it justifies all their bullshit behavior.
Who's bullshit behavior?
Every team that lined up to give this dude a contract immediately.
Well, right, but that's what I'm saying. Evander Kane needs to go get some help. Nobody can force him to go get some help, and
I think someone could probably force him. To be honest with you,
like I think if every team said we are not gonna give you a contract,
that wouldn't mean he's gonna go get some help. I mean, doesn't mean he's gonna do it.
Just
that's his choice.
From a standpoint of how it looks, how much better is it if Ken Holland comes on and says, look, we think Evander Kane can help us on the ice, but we know he needs help off of it. So we're going to put things in place that are going to help him and keep him on the path that he needs to be on, instead of going, I believe in second chances. Come on in. It's fine.
Sure. But again, you can't force a dude to get some help. So if there was someone that was going to come out and say, we had an extended meeting and we talked to him and he decided that he wants to go get some help to continue his career, then great. But like, look, dude, I mean, here's the harsh reality. You cannot like it. And I'm not saying that this is my standpoint. I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm not saying I would do this. He has a skill set that 0.25% of all humans possess, probably even smaller. And there's people that have a lot of money at stake and their jobs are at stake. And I'm not saying that, it's the right thing, but people with agendas don't always act in the most morally upstanding way. And if he has to go get some help at some point, this goes beyond him just being a bad teammate. This is Antonio Brown level behavior where there's a larger issue here that Evander Kane needs to get worked out.
Antonio Brown also won a championship. So
justified everything.
I'm not saying
I don't think so.
But
I don't think so.
From their perspective, from the decision making, from the perspective of the people giving,
it's not justifying. Yes. It's we got away with it.
Yeah,
we got away with it. It doesn't justify behavior. It doesn't mean that whatever Evander Kane did is okay.
None of we got away with it. Antonio Brown situation are sorry for how things went. They got what they wanted out of him.
No, because there's accountability on Antonio Brown to take care of himself and his house.
Why?
He
hasn't. he hasn't. He's
right?
never.
That's not on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's on Antonio Brown.
Now, for 1 second, has he ever taken accountability? And he got another job. He got to go play and win a championship. He got more NFL paychecks. They just justified everything he ever did. It was totally fine with everybody because they got what they wanted out of him. And the same thing is happening with Evander Kane. There's no if everybody came together and said
that's a far leap to go.
No, it's not. That's exactly what just happened.
No, I disagree.
I disagree. I think you're going to be in the minority on this one.
Sure, on this show, maybe.
Because
but you're saying that there is no onus on Evander Kane or Antonio Brown to take care of themselves.
No, they should be, but they're not. And because they're not, it doesn't matter. Because they continue their consequences should be they don't get to be professional athletes anymore.
It's a job, man. It's a job. The fact that it's that because they're an athlete, like that's saying that if someone has bad behavior, they don't deserve to work anywhere. That's the equivalency of what you're saying.
There's a difference between making a mistake or two and making
I'm not saying that what he's doing is okay. I'm not saying that I would put him on a team, but I said I don't see how, if you're a team, that even if you're trying to win a championship, that you think it's worth it. The dude just had the last 3 weeks to try and get through an AHL month, and he couldn't fucking do it. I'm not saying I would do it, but my point is, as much as we're going to put onus on, if you want to put onus on Ken Holland, you have to. Evander Kane's an adult. He's a big boy. He's got to get up in the morning, and he's got to go to work, and he's got to be on time, and he's got to get to sleep at the correct time the night before. And if he's not going to do all that stuff, then that's when you deal with it. Again, I wouldn't put him on my team. I wouldn't give him a contract, but he has to make some decisions for himself. I would love to see a team come out and say, we are bringing him on board, but he is suspended from the team. We are going to put him into this program, da-da-da-da-da. I don't know if a team can do that.
I don't know that a team will, and at this point, I don't think that Evander Kane will either, and that's the problem.
No. Evander Kane has no incentive to, because he keeps getting jobs.
Yep. So
every other industry in the world, if you had those kinds of personal problems, you would be considered unhireable. Yep. Until you took care of your shit.
But again, that's where I think he's towing the line, and that's the same thing with Antonio Brown. A lot of those most of the allegations that have come out against him have never really been proven.
Antonio Brown, are you?
No, buddy, Evander Kane. Evander Kane. That's who we're talking about, right?
Evander Kane has. There's like
I'm talking about like
list of them.
I'm talking about the stuff that's legally an issue. How many of them has he been proven guilty? And I'm asking dead serious. I don't know.
Look, here's where we all probably should have Googled this shit before we started this conversation.
I've actually got his tab. I've got a Google tab pulled up, and I just haven't
to figure out where all of those different things are, because I don't know.
Because that's my thing, right? If he doesn't have anything where he's broken laws, that he's been convicted of this stuff, what we're talking about is just shitty behavior.
Did
And
just break the law when he crossed the border that he was.
There's an investigation. There's an investigation. We don't know.
They're also illegal.
Yeah.
And he was punished. He was suspended 21 games for the vaccination
card. The problem is
card.
we're already moving the goalposts now, because we've pointed out two things that are definitely illegal.
What?
and now, instead of
again, I said convicted. I said convicted. There's an open investigation into the vaccination thing, him crossing the border. What's funny is I agree with what you guys are saying. It's just not a black and white issue.
I mean, nothing is completely black and white, right? But also, at a certain point where there's smoke, there's fire.
I agree. I said, I don't know why a team would want to bother with that hassle. If they do this investigation and say, yes, this dude broke Canada's law that he was supposed to be quarantining, then he broke the law, and this enters into a different type of conversation. But right now, it's just a bunch of stuff where it's like, God, he's a shitty, annoying dude. He's a bad teammate. And, I'm not excusing him. I wouldn't do it. But did he break the law? We don't know yet. That's what the investigation's finding out. And if he did, you're in a completely different conversation. But he has to take some accountability and get himself the help that he needs. And you're right. People enable him that they shouldn't be giving him more chances until he does that. But there is nothing to say that if nobody gives him a contract, he'll go get his help anyways. And that's where I think people need to be having this conversation is, why isn't anybody offering to get him some help? And maybe they are. We're just not hearing about it. But Again, I agree with you guys for, in the terms of I wouldn't give him a contract. Do I think a team should give him a contract? No, but I also don't think that it's necessarily fair to say he should never be allowed to play hockey again.
I don't think any of us said he should never be allowed to play hockey again.
I think it's definitely somewhere in between, but
I think that there should be a period where he has to prove himself that he's taken any kinds of steps to go through any kind of rehabilitation, that he's taken any accountability for the bullshit that he's done. And they're not doing that. They're just skipping any of that and saying, here's a contract, here's a job. He gets to pick,
I agree. I think it's terrible.
He gets to pick a cup contender because they all lined up for his services. It's fucking crazy.
I don't disagree with you, AJ. I don't disagree with you, but I think you do, and it's the exact reason why the NHLPA is forced to file a grievance, is because you have to make sure that you have everything straight on this. And I agree. I'm glad that while this investigation is going on, it sounds like he's not allowed to sign a contract, because I think the outcome of that investigation absolutely determines what's coming next or what should come next. But I think there's a lot of gray area here. I think there's a lot of stuff that we still don't know. There's a lot of stuff that, has come out in the past that has been disproven, or, well, that's not exactly what happened in relative to Evander Kane. Sounds like the dude's a bad teammate. Sounds like his life has taken a bit of a spiral in the last couple of years with the bankruptcy and all that stuff. And it sounds like the dude's in a really bad mental place, and someone needs to get him some help.
Yeah, so line up and give him another job.
If he doesn't want to get himself help, man, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
Everyone deserves a job. Jesus.
In any case, we do have to take a quick break here, as we are brought to you by Strava Craft Coffee. You can check out the CBD coffee online, get 25% off, and use code DNVR25 at checkout, and get the K-Cups or the normal coffee beans, whatever type you prefer. It helps with a bunch of different stuff like migraines, IBS, joint pain, other things as well. So be sure to jump on that and take some, because, I can see how this conversation would give you some indigestion or something. So maybe jump on that. You can also hit up DraftKings and hopefully bet a lot more responsibly than Evander Kane did. Get over there. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account. Right now, as the NFL is counting down to Super Bowl 56, new customers can get 56-1 odds on any wild card team to win their game. Bet $5 and win $280 in free bets if the wild card team you pick wins. All customers can also get on the Hammer the Over promotion for every 5,000 bettors who take the over on Saturday night's game. They haven't specified. It looks like it could be both. Anyway, go look at the DraftKings, find out the Hammer the Over promotion, whichever one they're on. The lower the score by half a point on the over for every 5,000 bettors. Every time they do this, the over literally hits zero. So it's actually just free money. They're actually just giving you money. Jump on that. Be sure to get yourself some money to play with on DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code DNVR to get that 56-1 odds opportunity on the NFL. You can win $280 in free bets when you bet $5. The DraftKings is an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Other terms, restrictions, and conditions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And of course, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. And then when you make a ton of money and you want to buy a house, go hit up Chevalier Mortgage. Both Mike and Virginia have been doing it here in Colorado for a very long time. And Mike might be exactly what Evander Kane needs, because he's a certified financial planner. So, don't let that dude spend all of his money gambling. Instead, have someone help him with that problem a little bit. They can also help you find the right home loan for you if you're looking to buy a house. They're very experienced in it. They'll find the right one for your entire financial picture, not just one that gets you the house. So check them out today. Michael Chevalier, NMLS 1931006. Virginia Chevalier, NMLS 1910631. You can find them at dnvrmortgage.com, or you can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. There is one thing that I do want to touch on you did a little bit. Jesse did. And I know in reality this is impossible. You can't just ignore all of the off the ice stuff. But part of the reason this is a conversation is because all 32 teams in the NHL would be a better hockey team with someone of Evander Kane's skill set on them. I don't think anyone would disagree with that.
That super chat is great.
Thank you for the $5 super chat, MJ. There are 4 people on the screen. 1, 2, 4. Yep. Sounds about right. Unfortunate, but we appreciate the $5.
No, and honestly, that's look. I agree with the two of you guys.
Yep.
When it comes to me personally, I agree. I don't think anybody should be lining up to give him a job. I really like the fact that the league came out and said, hey, we're opening an investigation. Nobody can give this guy a contract while we're looking into this, because then you do start crossing over into the legal ramifications and stuff like that. Here's the fucking problem with, and this isn't a hockey problem, is that we've seen it in the NFL. We've seen it in the NBA. We've seen it in the MLB. Evander Kane is a very good, I mean, I guess he's not a great hockey player, but he's a very good hockey player who can score a lot of goals, right? At the NHL level, which that is, I mean, that's half of 1% of registered hockey players in the US, or, in the world can do that. And you get people who have money at stake and have their jobs at stake and stuff and say, to hell with morality, that guy can help me keep my job. And that's the problem. And that's what sucks. That's the shitty reality of society. It's not a hockey problem. That's not even a professional sports problem. I know plenty of sales dudes who have real issues that get cut massive checks because they're good at what they do. And it's unfortunate, but that is why you have, Ken Holland, who's fighting for his life up there. And he's grabbing a really shitty life preserver. You know what I mean? And it sucks that you see, he's trying to do a desperate thing because he's a desperate person. And that's what it is. If you take everything in life out of it and you just look at Evander Kane, the hockey player, dude's good.
Yep. On the ice.
Right.
Certainly is an NHL caliber player. I don't think there's
For
any
sure.
doubt about that. There does enter an argument of what does that guy do to a locker room?
Yep.
Is his on ice performance even worth, forget the legal ramifications, but the rest of the team's feelings on it?
And that's where I'm at right in this moment with this stuff that's happening, because this is just another, I think AJ used a great word with when that stuff first kind of started happening in Atlanta. It was all innocuous shit that just made people not like him. And that to me is what this last month has been, where it's like, dude, you've had so many things against you. You've been in legal trouble that you've somehow skirted your way around it. And now you're on like a, hey, well, can you act like an adult for a month? We'll see if he ended up doing something illegal, but regardless, he answered the question of, no, I can't act like a grown-up for a month. And that is, to me, where I would sit there if I'm, especially a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who have a very fragile locker room right now. Connor McDavid came out in a press conference a year ago and said, yeah, we've got 3 years to figure out what direction we're going. Things are going badly. They're multiple points out of a playoff spot. You've got a very fragile group of guys. And now you're going to add this dude who has, I don't know if he's played an NHL game this year, but maybe has had his name in the headlines more than any other NHL player. I just don't see where, even with the on ice stuff, it's worth it right now.
Here's where I struggle with the comparison to Antonio Brown a little bit too, especially in more recent times, at least. When he went to the Buccaneers were already a championship caliber team. Like, they were going to be extremely good regardless of Antonio Brown. when you look at a team like Edmonton, are they that good? Are they already a high level enough hockey team that Evander Kane puts them over the top, or they were already close to that level? Or is this just going to be a tire fire waiting to happen?
Can you repeat just like the crux of that question? Believe it or not.
So essentially, with or without Antonio Brown, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were a Super Bowl caliber football team. Antonio Brown knew he was going there pretty much to win a championship.
Yep.
I don't really think that's the case with Evander Kane going to Edmonton. I don't think they're on that level of play. Does that make it harder for someone like Evander Kane to keep in line?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I think that Evander Kane has shown that Evander Kane is out for Evander Kane.
Pretty
and
true.
him going to Edmonton to play next to Draisaitl and McDavid, and play in a loaded top six. If he's at the top of his game, he gives them a third banana that they've never had. No offense to Nugent Hopkins, who's a very good hockey player, obviously, but he gives them a different dynamic. He gives them the big tough guy that they thought that they were getting in Milan Lucic, the big tough power forward who can score a lot of goals for you, and play with an attitude. That's what they thought that they were getting with Lucic all those years ago, and that's where Evander Kane is unique in his skill set, is that he is like that, and he is very talented, and he's looking at $23 million that he can't get back from the San Jose Sharks. Well, how best to recoup that money? Go to a team with a ton of offensive firepower, get dropped into that environment, score a bunch of points. You don't really give a shit about winning. You've shown that in your career. And if that happens, then that only furthers his reputation on his side. If he's part of a winning program there, and if he's not, then he gets to say, look, it was all chaotic before I showed up. It's not like I was the reason things went sideways. Look what happened before I got there. But as long as he goes there and puts up points, which you've got to think next to McDavid and with Draisaitl still there, that there's a pretty good chance that he's going to be a prominent enough scorer that he's going to go into the market, and he's going to go into a free agent market and be in line for another big money deal. Now, he may not get 6 years ever again, but a high salaried 2 or 3 year deal for that guy. If he goes out and he is really productive in Edmonton, that's exactly what it is. Edmonton,
I don't know if he'll ever get anyone to give him more than a year again. Edmonton, several years.
Edmonton. I love how naive you're being today. Edmonton.
Love the way you talk down to me today.
Edmonton is a great play. Like, where are you gonna find trouble? Edmonton or South Florida? Like, Edmonton's probably a safe place for him to go to accomplish his goals, but stay out of trouble. Like, the temptations in Edmonton when he's away from the game, way less, right? Versus him going to like Tampa Bay or Florida or something. Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you're a person of means, you can find trouble anywhere.
Teams still travel, right?
But
a lot of his problems were going to Vegas with the Sharks. So.
True enough. But it's, I think that Edmonton is like threading the needle of, he gets to put himself in a position to score a lot of points. He gets to theoretically be competitive. He puts himself in a position where he can, if he scores those points, he can go into a market and get money from somebody again and start to recoup some of the lost money with the terminated contract. But he also gets to show he can be an adult. He only has to be an adult for 6 months. It's not like Tony DeAngelo. Tony DeAngelo's biggest offense was largely just saying things that people didn't like. Somebody taught him to shut the hell up on social media, and it's made all the difference in the world for him. Evander Kane has way deeper issues than that. He can't seem to string together 3 good decisions. So how will it go? I don't know, but I think that there is a lot of it, to me, it makes a lot of sense that he would choose Edmonton. They're desperate. He needs a place where he can go and produce at a high level. And if things turn around and things go well, he's going to get a lot of credit for that. You know, he was part of the solution there. And so people are going to once again overlook all of the shitty behavior and be like, he towed the line, he produced. I don't think he'll ever get a long-term deal again, but I'd be willing to bet you he gets a multi-year deal if he plays well.
I mean, I could see him get a 2-year, but so, and dude, what you just said there though is my issue with this whole type of conversation. If he goes there and he plays well and he acts professionally and he acts like an adult for 6 months, like that's my thing. Like at what point is he allowed to start being part of society again?
He's part of society now. But
if it was up to you, he wouldn't be.
If it was up to me, he'd be getting help before he was able to go back into the NHL.
Okay, so that's exactly what I said earlier, and you just called me naive for it.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I guess what does he have to do to prove to you that he's allowed to play hockey again?
He doesn't have to prove anything to me. I'm not a decision maker in the
Okay,
NHL.
Jesus Christ, dude, you know what I'm asking you.
Like,
at what point would you stop saying that the NHL is a scumbag league for letting him back in?
Did I call it a scumbag league? I mean, I just think that it's disappointing.
Thank you for your split. So what point are you stop being disappointed then? Let me split the hairs as fine as I can. At what point are you being disappointed?
When he starts acting like a grown-up.
So that's what I said. You said he'll go to Edmonton if he plays well and he acts like an adult for 6 months. He'll get a 2-year deal and it'll excuse everything he just did. What is it? Does he have to act like a grown-up or
yeah? I mean,
so if he goes to Edmonton, he plays well, and for 6 months he handles himself well, he conducts himself well off the ice. Is he allowed to get another contract?
Sure. I mean, are you asking me or the league now? Or are you asking me personally?
I'm asking, yes.
Then, yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay, because just a minute ago you said it wasn't.
Well, I wouldn't have given him one. I wouldn't give him one today because I think
I wouldn't either.
Because I think that I'm not going to reward somebody that I don't trust.
I agree, 100%. And there's a reason why I think Ken Holland called his agent before the ink had even dried on his contract termination. I think you've got a guy who's very desperate, who has a track record of bad decisions. I would actually love, I know his agent is saying there's 15 teams lined up around the fucking block. I'd really love to actually see that call list of who's legitimately interested. Because to me, I don't think it's a coincidence that he went and did an in-person interview in Edmonton. Everything else we're hearing is, oh, trust me, there's a lot of guys. We're selling the Brooklyn Bridge too. I would be surprised that, if there was actually that many teams lining up to talk to him. I really would.
All right. Well, I think we've talked about him enough. So we can kind of wrap up the show here if you guys have any final thoughts.
Do we want to get into this BYRAM stuff?
Do we?
I would say let's.
I assume we've all seen
to
this
make
as
sure
it's been going on.
To be honest,
so I saw it when it was posted, and I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to give it any.
I'm fine with
additional
saying that we should respect that he's out for personal reasons, but
I
if you
don't
want to talk about it, you can.
That's our look from one perspective. Dater's doing his job.
Yep.
Right.
There's a story to be had there, and he's getting it. On the other side, and this is probably my biggest fault as a reporter. I hate that word. Is that I don't want to chase that story.
Yeah,
if they say that because when we found out last night, Jesse, I texted the Avs and just said, "Is he okay?" To find out, hey, I wasn't asking him for the story. I'm not trying
don't need
to
specifics.
Was not trying to breach any kind of privacy. I just wanted to know. I just wanted to know if Bo was okay, on a personal level. You know, and the response we got back did not really clarify. It was mostly just like, we're not sure what's going on either. Right. There's a story to be had there. Everybody wants that story. Where is the human line drawn between respecting privacy and not? I think that's tough. I think that's I think that's a question that every individual reporter has to answer for themselves about what they're comfortable with and where they believe that line exists. If the BYRAM family, and that's where this story is coming from, the BYRAM family is comfortable talking about it, I don't really think that it's inappropriate.
That's what I was just about to say, because I agree 100% with what you just said about there being two sides, and the fact that this is seemingly coming directly from his parents. Yeah, they're obviously okay with that being out in the open. Yeah. So that makes you feel a little bit. This isn't like a family friend, or I got it from someone who overheard the phone conversation or something like that. That is a completely different.
Got it from the neighbor who was in the bushes as they came home. And you're like, what?
Yeah. No. So
and Peter Baugh, this isn't just a Dater thing. Peter Baugh also just tweeted out that he talked to BYRAM's dad as well.
Yeah. So there's definitely there's definitely some gray there, but as the story sits right now, while I don't know if I would have done it myself, the family's comfortable having it out there, and that's the most important.
Where Chris's comment here is where I fall on things. I never thought to try and reach out to his parents. It's just not. It's not how I'm wired. I'm not obsessed with trying to get the story. I don't think that it does any good. I don't think it does any good for us to have an answer to what the personal reasons are. It just satiates our constant desire to know intimate details of people's lives.
Especially because
this is why I'm a bad reporter. This is why I'm a better podcast personality and writer and voice kind of around the team versus just being a straight reporter who just reports news and finds stories and blah, 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 blah. Because I do respect privacy to a fault. It's always been that way. I don't like talking to players when I see them out and about. I'll be friendly. I'll say hi. But I don't want to take up their time. When we've had Avs players in the DNVR bar before. We went over and said hi and then let them be. We didn't try and get a story. We didn't dig for anything. That makes us bad at that part of our job. I can live with that. I've always lived with that. It's why I've always said that there's room for the different styles and the different approaches. Everybody who wants every little detail, Dater's your guy. I'm not your guy because I don't want to delve into players' lives in that manner. It's just not. It's not me. Again, I leave it up to every person out there to decide what's appropriate or what's not. Just to say that I don't begrudge Adrian for doing that. I think that he's just doing his job. And if the family wanted it shut down, it would have been shut down.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a story right now, or there would have been some untoward things that had to happen to get it. That Sean BYRAM was comfortable talking about it, I think makes me feel like this is fine. They were comfortable with it. I don't think it does us any good. I don't think it changes the story.
Right.
Like we get frustrated a lot about not having a timeline on injuries, but when it comes to concussion issues, we know BYRAM has struggled with this year, and I don't think it does us any good to have the answer to that question because there's still no timeline. All we know is he's struggling with concussion issues. That's it. That's all we've got. And I don't think this would personally, I don't think it needed to happen, but there was a story there. There was desire for it. It's good for his website. It's good for clicks. It's good for attention. Obviously, as his own boss now, Dater needed to do that. So it is what it is.
Yeah. The only area where I would say that I don't like this situation is usually when it's the personal reasons. That is kind of an unspoken rule of
let it be.
Just leave that one be. Bednar was asked about it yesterday, which in his post-game presser, which I think
totally fair game.
As people sitting in that media room or virtual media room, you're not doing your job if someone doesn't ask. So I appreciate the ask, but he said, all I know is it's personal reasons and we're going to ask to leave it at that. Or he said, we're going to leave it at that, I think.
Or we'll
So
respect that or something.
Right, yeah,
something along those lines.
Yep. So that's maybe the only thing where I sit here and I'm like, I just don't love that, because that is usually the kind of unwritten, unspoken rule of when it's that for at least, there's a comment here, at least the next 24 hours, just let that one be. But not to regurgitate too much what AJ said, if the family's okay talking about it, then at least you've got that clearance.
And Sean Byram's been around the NHL for a long time.
AJ, I want to ask you a question, because you made a funny comment a minute ago, and when people ask you, what do you do? What do you say?
I tell them that I cover the Avalanche, and they don't know what that means. And I just say, and they're like, "Oh, so you travel with the team?" And I'm like, "No, not really." And they're like, "So you're not on the team? Like you're not part of the organization?" "No, not really." And I'm like, "Look, I do my job is it's like a multimedia.
Yeah, I just say sports media
approach to the coverage of hockey. I don't ever refer to myself as a reporter. I hate that. I hate it because I don't view myself in that way. I don't do the job in that way. I don't dig for every little story. I like finding out information for my own personal whatever, and don't want to dig into other people's shit.
When like I'm having like small exchanges, and they, because it's that exact progression. Oh, I work in sports media. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. What do you do? Well, I cover.
Yeah.
No. Oh, but like, what is it? Altitude? No, I don't work for them. Oh, so you're a journalist. And I usually just like, yes.
Close enough.
It's usually like kind of.
Right. If it's like a family friend or just like a friend or something like that, then I'll be like, well, this is what we do, and this is kind of and multimedia is a word that I use a lot. But if it's a cashier at a fucking whatever, you're a journalist? Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to just be like, I work in sports media, and they're like, oh, okay, cool.
All right.
Like
for that last comment, go ahead.
The roommate that still lives here, she's like, "Oh, you're a sports writer. I don't really know what you do, but you're a sports writer." Like she understands sports writer, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good with that."
This is for the people that listened to the shows back in the BSN days. This was a lot of our shows. AJ and I see stuff differently. That's why we like to talk with each other. I shouldn't say never. I don't know if we've never been mad at each other, but this stuff usually lasts. Lingers. Yeah, this stuff usually lasts until the show stops, and then
it's never that deep. No, right. Jesse and I get fired up when we disagree with each other about things, but we're at the end of the day, we've always been friends, and
that's part of I think what makes us friends is
and there's always that respect of like it when it's done, it's done. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
And this show is done now, so
woo.
I think we learned that pretty much all of these topics, it's not black and white. There's some gray area in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's good to have different viewpoints on things, is because there are different, everybody feels a little bit differently about complicated issues.
Yep.
Well,
I wrote about that in my game story the other night. You should go read it. Jared Bednar was asked just about some of the COVID protocols, and I thought it was important to put it in there.
Yeah.
Not because I agreed or disagreed, but it's an interesting perspective. And I think it's too easy in life right now to go through having no idea what anyone else's opinion is. It's never been easier to cut entire opinions out of your life. I'm not saying you have to agree with them. I'm not saying you have to like them. But there's always they will always exist, and there's always going to be someone who sees something differently than you. And I just always think it's important to hear it out. And honestly, with for everyone listening today, I don't agree with most of the stuff I was arguing today, but it is a real it's a real part of the situation and part of the story. People didn't like that we were talking about the too many men on the show last night. It was a part of the story, and you've always got to talk about it.
What do you want us to talk about after that game? Are you serious?
All right.
Like, there's only so much you could say about JT Compher's little cutesy backhand shit, but the real story was something else.
Yeah. The real story now is that I'm ending the show. So thank you everyone for watching or listening. We appreciate all of y'all a ton. We'll be back on Friday. We'll be back on Friday.
We have tomorrow
off because we have the Saturday game. Friday should be fully packed for you, though. Pre-game, watch-along, post-game. So we got you fully covered.
Yeah, we are. Are we doing the watch along with our?
As far as I know, it's on.
Okay, as far as it's on.
So I will actually be doing a show with PHNX tomorrow. So AJ and Rudo will be off, but I will be doing some stuff with PHNX ahead of the weekend.
Jesse.
Yep. And then
Are you flying down there tomorrow?
Not tomorrow. No, they're doing. They asked me to do a show with them for tomorrow. I believe we're going to end up previewing both games based off the communication I've had with them. And then we'll see. We're still working on if I'm going to be doing anything with them live on Saturday. But I'll be in Glendale. The Coyotes are back practicing, so it sounds like everything should be a go. Yeah. But yeah, so I should be doing some stuff with PHNX, the PHNX Coyotes guys tomorrow.
There you go. Cool. So go check out PHNX and Jesse on that side tomorrow. We'll be back with everything on Friday. We hope to see you there. Until then, we'll talk to you next time.